guys, today we are super excited. We have here with us Jimmy Burgess, who happens to be one of Inman's most read weekly contributors. And today we're all gonna obtain exclusive tips and tricks on how to boost our businesses in today's market. It doesn't matter if you're an experienced realtor or a brand new one.
I got to tell you, I am so excited today, Tatiana. Let me share a little bit about Jimmy's background before we really get into our conversation today. Jimmy Burgess currently oversees 285 agents with a 2022 sales volume of almost $2 billion in sales. With a B, almost $2 billion in sales volume in 2022. He has a YouTube channel with over 400 agent training videos. He's the host of the Real Estate Sales Podcast, which is available on all podcast outlets. And he was recognized as one of the 200 most powerful and influential people in real estate for 2022. You guys are in for a very special treat today. Jimmy, thank you so much for being on our show.
Tony, if I could get that introduction every day, I feel like I'd feel way better about myself. You ever have those moments where you're like, what are they talking about? You know what I mean?
That's you. Well, I'll tell you what, let's just do something real quick here, Jimmy. Before we really get into some of your great tips and really the meat and the heart of this conversation today, I'd love for you to share with us a couple of things. I mean, you've been in the industry for almost 30 years. Yeah. So I'm sure you've had a lot of ups. I'm sure you've had a lot of downs. We'd love to hear maybe just a couple of these stories to kind of give people a context of really who you are and where you came from.
Yeah, Tony, thank you, Tatiana, Tony, for letting me be a part of this. I'm excited to be with you guys today. Yeah, after 30 years, I did have a full head of hair when I started in real estate. That was one thing, as you can imagine, you go through this. And I told somebody the other day, I was like, I don't know when I became the old guy in real estate that's been in almost 30 years. You know what I mean? It just feels like it just happened like that. But so I actually kind of grew up in the business. My mom was, after my parents got divorced, my dad moved about 45 minutes away, started a real estate company. My mom remarried, and my mom and stepfather started a real estate company. So as a teenager, literally, my weekends were spent in the backyards of open houses or being around the business all the time, dropping and putting signs up or doing whatever it was. And so I kind of grew up in it, and I started in it right out of college. I went to work for Merrill Lynch for about a year and a half, and the actual coat and tie thing was not for me. I'm in a coastal market, so we don't necessarily have the coat and tie when we're showing property. We kind of match the hatch, so to speak. And so my brother and I basically came back, started working with my mom and that real estate company. We had some success. At a young age, just by working hard, and just by, being in a good place. Also, that progressed over the years. I got burnt out, because you have to understand, everybody sees our coastal market now and thinks, well, your average sales price is pushing up on $1 million for our company. And that was not the way it started. I found an article in the Florida Realtor magazine from back in like the late 90s, and it had a picture of me with a full head of hair, like the glamour shot, and it said they're young, they're savvy, and they're in it for the long run. And I was like, well, they got at least the long run part, but when I looked at that article, it said that we did 100 plus transactions, and we had a sales volume for the year of $7.2 million. And I was like, oh my gosh, no wonder we got burnt out. Our average sales price was like $68,000, Wow. And so that was one of those where got burnt out, got out of the business just for about a year, was a commercial lender. This was when the market's taking off, and came back into the business because I began to see that the builders I was working with were looking for the lots that the developers had. So I began to put those groups together, had the boom. And then, as you know, when things go up very quickly, guess what can happen on the other side? They can come down very quickly. Yeah. And so consequently went through the financial struggle that a lot of us in this business went through during that time. It really, though, refocused me on what was important, and as a man, as a realtor, with my family, everything else. And so coming out of that, I feel like now looking back, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, even though at the time I thought it was the worst. And that really propelled me into really building the team and growing that. And then about 5 years ago, I shifted out of the sales not completely out, but really transitioned into more of a leadership role here. And during that time, we grew from around 60 agents to 280 now in about a 4-year period. And we went from about $400 million in sales to right at $2 billion last year.
Wow.
We've had some great growth. And what's been encouraging from that standpoint also is that our average agent production level has gone up 378% from what it was just a few years ago. So consequently, that's why I've got so much passion, is there's no way I can give back to this business everything that it's done for me, for my family, for the opportunities it's presented. And so that's why I enjoy doing this kind of stuff, because I know some of the stuff we're going to talk about today, if some of the agents will apply it in their business, I know because I'm watching it every day. I'm watching it in my business, and I'm watching it in the agents that I get a chance to work with, that these things will bring more business to you and more opportunities for you to grow your business in the right way as well. So thank you all for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Jimmy, so let's dive into those tips and tricks that you have for us today, especially in today's changing market.
Yeah. So bottom line is this, in my opinion, this is separation season. This is an opportunity for the working agents, the professional agents, to really separate themselves from the rest of the competition. Now, so what do? If you want different results, you got to do some different things. So that's what I want to do. I want to kind of go through very specific 5 strategies. I'm going to start with this, and I'll give you a little background. What this is unsolicited video CMAs. Now, I started doing this personally, literally back almost 5 years ago. It was the last quarter that I was in full production, and I didn't even ask the rest of the team to do it. What I decided is that every single time in my life that I'd given value out to the marketplace without expectation of anything to come back, or without overwhelming it with a sales pitch or a call to action, it always came back. And this was no different. So here's what I did: is I decided that last 4th quarter of 2018, I was going to come to a place where I was going to send 1 per day. Every day that I worked, I was going to record a video CMA instead of just sending a CMA, which is great. I wanted to go through the numbers and talk people through where their value was in a specific way that would give them a value in a different way than they'd ever seen before. I didn't work every day. It was 72 days. And I'll get into the very specific ways to do this in just a second. But just to give you an idea of these numbers, I transitioned in May of the following year into the more of the executive role. And at that time, between the time that I started this and those 72 unsolicited CMAs, I generated $11.2 million worth of listings. Now, listen, back then, if y'all remember, we didn't sell everything as soon as you got it back then. So I sold $9.2 million worth of those listings. Wow. But it had an opportunity really to generate business that is still going from something I did 5 years ago. So let me give you the nuts and bolts of how this works, okay? Because basically, doing it a specific way, as I've done this with agents in California and Indiana, all across the country, these are the specific things that you need to make this strategy work, okay? First thing is, make a list of all the homeowners you know. Now, I did this where I just made a list of 100 plus homeowners. These were people that I'd been buyers of mine in the past. These were people that were neighbors, that were family members. I knew that even if they weren't ready, that this might be something that would generate a referral, and it did. I also went to my farm areas. Anybody that had told me they were possibly going to sell. Owners that I met at some of the open houses I'd done. So this was my list that I did. I then began to rank them by who was it that was most likely. And I started at the top and I worked my way down. Now, once I did this, I had this list. I had these email addresses because I had been communicating with these people. I'm going to tell you in just a minute how, if you don't have a lot of this, how you can start this process, even if you don't have a lot of past clients or potentially a lot of buyer or owners that you know. So then what I did is I pulled up 3 different tabs on my computer. So I used BombBomb, where I would record my screen. Listen, we're on Zoom right now. You could do this Zoom party in one where you just share your screen, But basically the key is I was going to be down in the bottom, and I was going to go through specific things on the screen, just like I was sitting at the kitchen table going over this CMA with them. I was going to do it in a digital way. So here's what I did: is that first tab I had pulled up was I had Google My Business pulled up. Okay. The reason I had, I'm sorry, not Google My Business. I had Google Earth pulled. I got a little slip there. Google Earth was pulled up. And the reason I did this is that if you've ever done this, if you punch an address in on Google Earth, it starts from outer space and zooms in on top of the house. So it does this cool thing. Now, I was using BombBomb, which uses the GIFs, at the beginning where it starts with motion in that. Mm-hmm. So imagine this. I started with that, and the second that it would go 3, 2, 1 countdown, and it would start, I would press enter on that address, and it would start in outer space and zoom in on top of the roof. Now, I will say this: if you send me an email that zooms in from outer space and stops on top of my roof, I'm clicking play on that thing every single time. And this was part of the reason why we had on the first round 90% open rates on these emails. Okay. And I'm going to tell you the specific titling, but that's how I started. I sent these things out. I had one of my friends call me and said, hey, I just saw your video. And you had you came in from outer space on the top of my house. He said, what are you, the high-tech redneck? I was like, wait a minute. I don't know if I appreciate that. I guess it's okay. But, so as long as they're paying attention, right? So then he says, he tells me, he said, hey, listen, this was different than anything I'd ever seen. I'm actually on the board in my homeowners association. Could you do one for the association that I could send to everybody? Wow. So it really opened up an opportunity. The second tab that I had pulled up is I just had simple on my MLS. Now you may use a specific type of CMA that you utilize. For me, at this point, that years ago, we didn't have all the sophistication. So I just literally had the active pending solds like this house already pulled up, and I just basically would walk through it. So I didn't have to memorize anything. I had all the numbers and the things right there. And I'd say, hey, listen, as you can see here, there are 5 houses currently for sale like yours in your neighborhood. There have been 3 that have sold in the last whatever time period, and we've got 2 that are under contract. Now, here's the average sales price. Here's the average price per square foot. This is the time that the average house is taking to sell. I just went through those numbers and I said, listen, I haven't been in your house in a little while, obviously. So I'm not sure if there's maybe some deferred maintenance or maybe you've upgraded some things. So what I want to do is give you an idea of where your value is so that you can have an idea of that. And if I were doing this right now, the way we're doing this right now is so that in July of 2023, if you ever wanted to come back and see where your value was, all you've got to do is go into your email and you just simply have to punch in a search, and it's either your address or valuation update, and it'll pop right up. That was what I did for the actual title of the subject line. Is it was their address, valuation update. Okay. Now the key in that is that I said this twice during the email. Now here's why. You have to understand, and I'll get back to this in just a second. I shifted out of the business then, 1st of 2019. I did these in 2018. The pandemic hits in 2020. Now here's what happens. 2020 rolls around. I have not made an outbound call for sales in almost 18 months. But these had shelf life because if you remember, I just said in those videos, I said, hey, at that time, if you're ever curious about where your value is and you wanted an updated one of these, all you'd have to do is go into your email and search your address or valuation update. Well, BombBomb actually pops these things up and tells me when people plays them on my laptop. So all of a sudden the pandemic hits and the market starts taking off, and I start seeing these little notifications popping up where these people for something I did 18 months before started playing these things again. Wow. So I began to call those folks and just say, hey, listen, it's been a little while. We're going through everything, just checking on you guys, but also just curious if you've seen what this is doing to affect your value. And if you're curious about it. They didn't know I already knew they were looking. You know what I mean? But I had that ability to have those calls. I'm shooting with a rifle, so to speak, instead of a shotgun. I ended up listing an additional $5 million in listings from an 18-month previous deal. And then out of that, we also had those folks that were repositioning. We had over $2 million in sales actually from those folks that we sold for. So sell by. So we had over $7 million 18 months after doing this activity that this generated. Now, let me get back to this because I want to give you exactly how to do this. Number one, Google Earth comes in from the top. You start right in on the top of that, helps increase the click-through rate. Then what we did is that I had those numbers pulled up as far as the comparables. Again, I mentioned in there, if you're ever curious about where your value was, July of 2023, all you've got to do is go back and just do a search in your email for either your address or valuation update. It'll pop right up. That was setting the table for the future. Then I simply said, hey, obviously I haven't been in your house in a little while. There may be some deferred maintenance, or you may have done some upgrades. So I'm going to give you a range of value here. But if you're curious about what it would sell for, literally take me 5 minutes to walk through the house. I can tell you exactly what it would sell for. That's all I said on that side. Okay. Didn't ask them if they wanted a list. Didn't ask them what their time frame was, any of those things. And then what I did was the third tab I had pulled up was an estimated seller net sheet. Now, listen, I did all the disclosures where it's like, hey, this is an estimation, but based on, the sales price and the typical closing costs, and I would break those down. This would be your net proceeds minus any payoff of mortgage, proration of taxes, or any of those, HOA fees, all those kind of disclosure things, but they wanted a number. So I gave them that number. Then I wrapped up this way every single time. Hey, listen, I hope this has been of value to you. It has been a little while since I've checked in with you. If you're ever curious, again, where your value was in July 2023, all you've got to do is come back in and search your address or valuation update in your email. It'll pop right up. Listen, just know I'm here if there's anything I can ever do for you, and I'll talk to you soon. And that's all I did. Didn't ask him for anything.
So let's move to tip number 2. Or
yeah. So this is, this is also a business, Tatiana, where it's more and more should be focused on the relationship instead of transactions. So the majority of the agents that are watching this, that are wanting to get better, have a database that at least has some people in it that they have that are raving fans, so to speak, that are past clients or that are really close to them. So this is something that I got from an agent, Heidi Harris, out of Raleigh, North Carolina. And what she did is she said the first of this year, she said, instead of buying leads, I'm going to buy lunch. So instead of spending $10 to $12 a day to generate leads, I'm going to go take somebody to lunch. And she said, and most times they don't even, and I don't even ask them about their house, anything. I just say, hey, listen, it's been a little while. I'd love to catch up for coffee or for lunch. And what she's finding is she's setting 3 of these appointments a week, and it has literally transformed.
Three appointments a week?
Yes, she's doing. So what she's trying to do is typically she'll set one for Tuesday, one may be coffee, one may be lunch. She'll set one for Wednesday and one for Thursday. And then what she's doing with these, and she's setting them a couple, 3 weeks in advance. You know what I mean? So she's calling someone. This would be like a past buyer. Hey, it's been a little while since we've seen you guys. Just love to catch up and just hear how your family's doing, how work's going on. Would it be possible to maybe catch up for coffee or for lunch either next Tuesday or Wednesday? And she said, overwhelming, they're doing it. And then she said, and it's just simple forward, it's family, occupation, the dreams, the whole deal. And so basically she's just saying, hey, tell me how's the family doing? And then she said, typically it comes around and they'll say, how's your business? And she'll say, oh, it's great. But obviously, I would always love if you hear of anybody. I appreciate you keeping me in mind if you hear of anybody. She said the number of referrals she is getting from doing this and repeat business has just literally changed her business. So I would just say, if you're looking for a way and you're wanting to know what will truly transform your business next year, is transform your relationships.
Fantastic. Now let's go to tip or trick number 3, Jimmy.
Okay. All right. So this is something that I had always done in my business, and we're doing it is that what we focus on expands, and what we go in and we actually go in and we look at, we typically can expect the results to get better. In other words, what we inspect, we can expect to get better. Mm-hmm. So what I always wanted to do is I wanted to make sure, this is the worst feeling for any agent, and we've all had it. If you're doing any business, is to think, I talked to them 4 months ago. They said that they might list their house in a year, and I'm going to call them next month. And all of a sudden you look on the MLS and it pops up, they listed with somebody else. It fell through the cracks and you just followed up. So one of the things that we do right now, and what I had always done in my career is I had a top 10 list. I had a whiteboard that sat in my office, and it basically had 3 different things on it. It had my next 10 listings. And what I did is I made a list of who those next 10 potential listings were for me. These were people that had told me they might sell in the next year. These were people that I'd been working with. Whatever it was, we weren't to the point where we'd signed a listing agreement, but I kind of knew it was probably coming in the next 12 to 18 months. Okay. Mm-hmm. Then I had my next 10 buyers. Who were the buyers that were most likely to buy? And that if I stayed in touch with and I found them the right property, who was it that was most likely to buy? And then the third list were, who were my MVPs? Who are those raving fans that if the opportunity came, as long as I was top of mind, they were going to send me a referral, or they want to recommend me to someone that they hear is thinking about buying or selling real estate. Now, I did a couple things to make sure that I stayed on top of this. I'm going to use the listing side first. What I did is I put the people's name first. Then what I put was the address, any kind of bedroom, bath, what it was, an estimated price of roughly what it was. And then what I did is I put the next line is the estimated commission, net commission to me. Okay. And then the last line I had is the last time spoken to. Okay. The reason why I wanted to do this is I wanted to make sure that list, that every 2 weeks, I either sent something to them that was personal, or I called and spoke to them every 2 weeks. Now, if they were hotter, and I knew they were going to listen the next 3 months, it was every week. And then as we got even closer, it was every day, just about. Hey, just checking in with you guys. Hey, I saw this one pop on the market. It kind of is similar to yours. It may affect our positioning on the market. Whatever it was, I just wanted to make sure that I didn't let anything fall through the crack. The reason why I put the estimated dollar number there for what it would mean to me was I totaled all of those for those 10. Now, when you do this, and all of a sudden you look and you just say, listen, if I just don't drop the ball and I get these 10 listings over the next 12 to 18 months, this is going to mean I've got X amount of dollars. Did the same thing with the buyers. I had the buyer's name. I had the estimated time to purchase, the price point they were looking for, any areas. Then I had the estimated commission that it would generate to me net, and the last time I talked to them. And so the first thing I did every morning is I came in and I looked at that list. Who is it on that list that I've not talked to in the last 2 weeks? That was my first call every day. Who was it that, as I looked at the hot sheet, I had the hot sheet on my laptop right here, and I had those folks right there where if I saw anything, I didn't have to think about it. I knew that might fit for them. I began to really focus in on those people that were the hottest prospects. And by focusing on those folks, it gave me the opportunity to keep them top of mind where I could stay in touch with them so I could stay top of mind. And then on my MVPs, hey, listen, we've got people that literally would love to send you a referral. It's just, are you top of mind for them? Are they in those positions where they hear of a coworker that says they're thinking about buying a house? And they say, you've really got to talk to Tatiana. You've really got to talk to Tatiana. You know what? And so while staying top of mind with those folks, I saw my referral numbers in that group continue to rise. So what I would encourage you to do is if you're wanting better results into this next year, make that list. Make that list of those next 10 buyers and sellers and that biggest MVP group, and make sure you're talking to them at least once, or you're personally communicating through text or sending them an email that's personalized or on the phone every 2 weeks. And those things, it'll be a wrap. You'll begin to see that happen like you can't imagine. And we're not going to get them all. You know what I mean? But if we just get the ones we're supposed to get, we call them OKP, our kind of people. I just want to work with our kind of people. My person, over the years changed. When I first started and I was young, it was a first-time home buyer. Then it became investors, and then it became, luxury buyers, and then it became, it's the life cycle of your business. But by putting those folks up there and keeping them top of mind, I promise you're going to see some better results coming as well.
Awesome.
Wow, man. If 4 and 5 is anything like 1, 2, and 3, I'm like, just write your own ticket, right?
Yeah. Well. And hey, you know what's funny, Tony, is I always say this. Most people don't need to be taught. They need to be reminded. That's the old saying, that you around. A lot of this is, you should be adding value. You should be keeping in touch with these people, but having a system in place to do it. Also, that you should be trying to drive those relationships deeper with those people that are your past clients. But actually having a strategy to do it really helps you stay accountable to it. So that's really what this boils down to. Now, how are we going to generate some new folks? Okay, because we've mostly just talked about people that we have a relationship with. We've talked about having lunch with those people, and then we've got our people that we've already generated. How are we going to generate some new business? Okay, now
this is number 4.
This is number 4 coming right here. Yes, number 4 is understanding and beginning to, instead of just geographically farm, because I encourage everybody to be having a geographical farm area. This is a little twist on that. Why don't we electronically geographical farm agents in feeder markets? So for instance, for us here on the beach, the majority of our buyers are coming from Atlanta, Nashville, Houston, Tennessee. They're coming from these different places. There's a great app. Oh, you're going to love this one. HowMoneyWalks.com. HowMoneyWalks.com is an IRS website that up to the second tells you the rotation of income that's moving into your area or moving out. Now, here's what I liked about this, is that you can pull it up. And so if you go to HowMoneyWalks.com, then I think it's like the statistics or numbers, and then you pull up your state and you pull up your county, it's going to tell you the 5 biggest areas that people are moving into your area from. Okay.
Wow.
The greatest thing about this is why would you not start making some calls to that group? One of the things that we've seen in the past also is to take and have a handwritten note card. This is another one that Heidi Harris, I just mentioned earlier, did in an interview I talked to her about years ago. She started her business, and she said every night I sat down and I pulled up I pulled the website up for the same brand that you're in, or top producers, or whatever it is in a different market that's a feeder market. And basically said, I'm going to take the top producers. I'm going to do a handwritten note. I love paying referral fees to people in whatever that feeder market is for you, to our area. And by the way, I'm actually going to give them a little extra value here. I would love to pay you a 30% referral fee instead of 25%. She to this day still gets 4 to 5 referrals in that. Wow. Now, when you go to this and it tells you that, now we can begin to target those folks. Why not gather email addresses for this group? Y'all are adding value to agents by this podcast. Why not be sending that out to agents? And at the bottom of the email that you're sending out, by the way, thanks for keeping us in mind in case you have clients that are moving to Sacramento, whatever it is. You know what I mean? That gives you the ability then to farm electronically with zero cost. You're already producing this. You know what I mean? That group of agents where you're top of mind, and all of a sudden you can begin to layer in. Again, we're doing some consistency. So those are the best types of people for us to work with, are those referrals. So if we can get that referral engine to begin to come, and again, it's consistency by sending an email out once a month, every 2 weeks, whatever it is, where you're adding value first to those agents, and then saying, by the way, thanks for keeping me in mind. I'll treat your people like family, give you an little extra than what you would get on another referral. The referrals will start coming in as well. So that's number 4. I know we're running short on time. I'll get to number 5.
I'm looking forward to number 5.
Right. Number 5. Listen, I could not do this without sharing with you. You have to be doing video content right now. I'm going to give you the story for me. Okay. Now, the time is going to pass either way. I have people and they say, you know, I can't do video like you. You don't understand. It's because I've done 500 plus videos, and on my just like on my BombBomb account, I did over 3,000 email videos, you know, so it's practice. It's doing those things. I'll promise you your first videos are not going to be your best, but keep doing them. But here's what video does. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. A video is frame after frame after frame. So it's literally like having millions of words. It's a natural attractant. People will say, Tony's my guy. Tatiana's that's who I'm going to work with. I could work with them because it acts as a filter. They say that's the person I could see myself working with. I trust them. It gives you that ability. Video content, whether it be short form video on social media, whether it be long form video on there, whether it be doing what you guys are doing, where you're interviewing other agents and you're adding value to agents to generate referrals and just set yourself apart. Whatever it is, just start doing more video. Video is going to compound over time. Here's what happened for me. And it doesn't take that long now. I'm going to tell you one story. I started, and it took me producing the video content that I have. Now there's over 400 videos in the YouTube channel. But as I did that, when I was adding value to agents, it started out where I did 83 videos over 14 months before I got my first 100 subscribers. Now, would you quit? Most people would have. But I was an agent, and I was like, you know what? These are things that I wish somebody would have done for me. So if I keep doing this, I'm going to find some traction. I'm going to get better, everyone. Now, here's the difference is now we're getting 500 subscribers per month on YouTube because the compounding effect of doing this and the videos get better. But as a local agent, I'm going to give you a perfect example. If you pull up Noah Escobar is a younger agent. He was my videographer intern for 2 years as he went through college. He got out of college. He went into sales. He had asked, you know, he was watching throughout that time. What could I do? Noah was listening and watching how other agents in other markets were doing certain types of videos. He's done roughly his first 15 videos he had different types of community updates. He had walking through and talking to a builder. He interviewed a local nonprofit, just those types of things. He did some videos on specific houses, but most of it was content that was driven to attract people. And if you go look at his stuff, you can kind of model after it. After 15 videos in 3 months, he got his first direct call from this. That was someone that said, hey, I saw your video on this neighborhood. I'm coming into town. Can you go show us that neighborhood? This was on a Saturday. He's on the beach. He gets this call. He's not working in the office. He's at the beach. He gets that phone call from the video that was working for him while he was at the beach. They set the appointment on Tuesday. They come in and they buy with cash $1.6 million on that Tuesday. Wow. Think about this.
Great story.
Now, here's this. He's only 3 months in. How much value do these things have as you go forward? There's a great agent out of Canada, Brad McCallum does, and all he does is, if you know Brad does this, and he's a great guy. And what he does is he just does the property videos. When Brad and I were talking, I think the number was, he said, Jimmy, you have to understand this. I've been doing these videos consistently now. I'm getting X number of hours of watch time every month. That means that every second that we're talking right now in real time, I've got 10 to 12 seconds of people watching my videos that I'm building rapport and getting opportunities. It's out there marketing for me. So there is something to understand with video content is that it's not just the now. This is now and into the future. And every single one you do compounds over time and it gets you more and more business. Find your own. Find other people that are doing this. Model some of those things. And I promise you're going to get some results.
Jimmy, we're extremely grateful for your time. We have learned a lot from you. So if you can share with folks before we wrap things up, where they can find you, and you know the drill.
Yeah, absolutely. No, best place is YouTube. I mean, if you go on and you'll find the YouTube videos there. The Real Estate Sales Podcast is on all of the podcast accesses, and then you can see the written stuff on Inman every week. And just let me know if I can help in any way. Again, could we be in a better business and at a better time than we are right now? I don't think you could be. So I'm excited to see some results.
Jimmy, thank you so much, man. Really, really appreciate you, and I know that the people that are going to be viewing this are going to be excited about the information you shared, because I'm barely sitting in my chair right now. I can't wait to get to my computer and start playing around with Google Earth.
It's going to be fun. Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you, Jimmy.